What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And Stockton been off the hook, been getting raided all week, and there was kind of a media silence around that in the beginning, but now we have a news clip. So let's watch this, and then we're gonna break it all down. All right. I'm not even gonna watch the whole
Meanwhile,
clip.
an operation
But
targeting gangs and violence in Stockton led to more than 70 arrests and dozens of guns being taken off the streets.
Stockton police just made the announcement today. ABC 10's Gabriel Porras was there and has the
I don't
details
know why
now.
it's so dark.
The press conference took place here
go.
at the Stockton Police Department's administration building, and despite law enforcement officials opening themselves up to questions, many questions were left on the table.
If violence is brought to our neighborhoods, there will be accountability.
San Joaquin County law enforcement leaders gathered Thursday to hear and see the results of
Look
what
like cowboy
Stockton's
hat.
police chief calls Operation Boogieman.
It specifically targeted some of our most violent street gangs, which were responsible for homicides and several shootings throughout the county.
But which gangs and cases?
I'm not going to give them the honor or space to acknowledge those gangs.
Is that right?
They
Very
know.
cool.
The chief also declined to
know.
detail the timeline when the operation began. He did say that $65,000, narcotics, 36 handguns, 14 rifles, and 1 shotgun were seized, and that officers made 74 arrests, but would not elaborate on the specific charges they face.
Every gun seized from the street.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. So you notice how he said Operation Boogeyman, right? Let me get that off the screen. He said Operation Boogeyman, but he's not going to give these gangs the attention. All right, so trip off this. We're not going to play audio for obvious reasons. Shout out Bird, directed the video apparently. And what do we have here? Ebk Jaaybo, Boogeyman. Okay. Very popular rapper out of Stockton. You get the idea of the video. It's a whole lot of this. Okay. Lots of props. Lots and lots of props. That video came out 6 months ago. It has 13 million views. Shout out Jaaybo for putting it on his YouTube channel. 13 million views. Ebk Jaaybo, Boogeyman. And now let's look at this video. Starts out the same, but it is not the same. It's kind of the same. This is from Bkandz. Oh, wow. Okay, more props. The real Boogeyman. Shout out Bkandz. My personal opinion, I feel like the Bkandz' video is better. That was 4 months ago. It's got almost a million views. Okay, 862,000. So, like I said, personally, I think the Bkandz' song is a better song. But when you listen to these songs, they're going at each other. It's like the Chicago drill rap scene. And I don't know if it's just kind of a generational culture thing or what, right? But in Stockton, and I'm not gonna try to explain the dynamics of the EBK and then the other breakaway EBK and Mud Boys or Mud Brothers and Fly Boys and townhomes and these different areas, and the rappers that represent them and who gets along with who and who doesn't. Safe to say that Ebk Jaaybo and Bkandz and the groups that they rock with or the people that they rock with don't really get along on music, right? Those were not complimentary songs, right? That was a response. That was a diss track, and so it is complicated. And like I said, I'm not trying to break that down. That's it's above my pay grade. But there has been a shit ton of violence in Stockton, and word on the curb is that violence is reflected in these songs. And what you had in Chicago was like these little groups of dudes that would start rapping, and they had rappers and they had hood dudes. And sometimes the rappers were the hood dudes and sometimes not. But then they'd split. There's an issue with a female or whatever, and they'd break off. And now you got this rapper over here, and he's got his homeboys. And they're rapping about knocking each other down. And to the untrained ear, it sounds like the rest of the rap that's out there, right? Knocking down their ops and doing this and doing that. But to local people or to super fans that really pay attention, there's a specificity, right? There's a word for you. there's a specificity to the songs and what they're talking about and who they're talking about. We've seen that going on in Florida, in the Orlando area, right? Just recently, and and so it's spreading around the country, right? That's why I say I think it's kind of generational. Um, and the idea is, the thought is, the allegations are that that is what is happening in Stockton also. So this is not traditional California gang shit, right? And I'm not saying that this is gang stuff either. Just the the rap scene, the gang scene, the line is getting blurred in a legal sense, and that is dangerous, right? That will get you caught up. I worked a case out of San Jose, Santa Clara County, like 10 years ago. Jesse Grant, I believe, if I remember right, that was the dude's name, Jesse Grant. Brother, black dude out of San Jose, and they were saying that his group was a gang. He had a rap group. It was called Crave Mob, right? And there was an incident that had happened, in which, and Crave Mob, they weren't Crips. There's some Crips in San Jose. These dudes weren't Crips. Some of them had some loose affiliation, maybe with Crips in the past. But Crave Mob, they didn't rap about being Crips. They didn't rap about specific ops. They didn't do any of that. They didn't rap. They sounded like these dudes, but it wasn't sneak disses or whatever. It was just generic rap music. If I remember right, Jesse, he was like the manager at Applebee's or something. You know, he was doing cool things with his life, and he put this group together to help some of his homeboys who have been caught up with little individual criminal cases in the past stay off the block and have something to do and whatnot. And they perform shows around San Jose. They were a local group. One day, Jesse's riding down the street with his homeboy. His homeboy got dreads, and the Taliban out of East Palo Alto had a particular hairstyle that involved dreads. Some Taliban dudes actually wound up setting up shop in Stockton and knocking shit down over there. That's a whole nother story. But so Jesse's driving down the street with his homeboy, and there's some Crips on the corner, right? It's downtown San Jose. There's some Crips on the corner. They see the dreads. They think these dudes are Taliban, so they shoot at them. Uh, got one of the guys in the car, in the car with Jesse, happens to have a pistol. He shoots back. Nobody is hit in that exchange. Jesse and his homeboy smash off, right? They hit the freeway. They're out of town. They're like, damn, fools are shooting at us. They have no idea what's going on. All they know is they were shot at. It was kind of reflexive, shooting back in that direction. They hit a telephone pole, and then they left. They didn't want no smoke. They didn't want no issues. Unfortunately, a car that looked similar to the car that they were in came back down that same road in the opposite direction a short time after. And these drunk Crips on the corner saw that car, thought it was them doubling back. They shot, and they wound up ending the life of like a foreign exchange student from China who was going to San Jose State. That got attention. That brought law enforcement pressure. And so a bunch of people get arrested. Jesse winds up getting charged with the death of that girl, even though he never fired a gun. He was not a gang member. He didn't have nothing to do with nothing. He wound up getting charged with it. This is before they changed the felony murder rules and that kind of stuff. So I worked on his case, right, as a defense expert, as a gang expert, and they used his raps and his lyrics and all that to try to say that Crave Mob was a gang. That was easy to beat. That was easy to fight. The jury did not for 1 second believe that Crave Mob was a gang, because, of all those factors. Now, Jesse wound up still pleading out and taking a deal, and part of the plea agreement was that he had to acknowledge that, in fact, Crave Mob was a gang, so defeated the whole fucking purpose of the trial. But I understand he did what he had to do for himself. It's just unfortunate. So, whole nother story. But my point is, this isn't new, right? Like I said, it was like 10 years ago. But it was easy to challenge law enforcement narrative that these rap groups are gangs because they're talking about knocking down ops. That wasn't a difficult thing to do then. It is much more difficult now with the things that these guys are saying and the things that are happening in the streets and the people that are in the videos and all the props that they have. And then the cops come to town and people are getting arrested for things that are not actually cinematic props. So it's rough. It's dangerous. It's not a game, right, that these dudes are playing. But so the question is the feds. That's what I've been getting asked about this. There's lots of videos that'll explain to you all the hood dynamics and who's beefing with who and this and that. I'll leave that for the other channels. Some of them kind of know what they're talking about. Some of them are just batshit crazy. But again, that's not my field, right? For these guys. But the legal part, what's going on? The feds were involved in these raids, right? You can go on social media, you can hear clips. Hey, this is the FBI, come outside. It has been a hot few days in Stockton. Shout out to Uber drivers, right? And they've been getting paid because nobody wanted to fucking leave and go drive nowhere. So it's been a great time for Uber and Uber Eats, but DoorDash, right, is popping, but not for anybody else. They've been riding around, busting everybody, pulling everybody over, and obviously, like they said, arrested 70 people over the course of, I think, 3 days. And a lot of people are booked on serious charges, right? Machine guns, which is pistols with switches, assault weapons, right, which is the rifles, all kinds of stuff. Some of those people have bailed out. Most of them don't have bail. Some have bailed out. The arraignments already started, obviously, because, people are getting arraigned like the next day. And a lot of people are getting held over. People are going to do some time. But it's all state charges. So why were the feds there? This is what I think. I had seen somewhere, even though in that news report, it says that law enforcement would not give them a timeline. I had seen somewhere that this was a 3-month investigation, right? 3 to 4 month investigation, which makes sense. It's coming on the tails of these Boogieman videos, right? So that's not long enough for the feds to do their thing. This is what I think is happening. Because of the violence, they went through and they snatched up everybody. The Stockton Police Department did not have the resources to go do all of these raids and arrest all of these people. So they brought in the assistance of the federal government. But the feds are not going to invest this much time and this much of their resources arresting all these guys for the state to get all the credit. That's not going to happen. Even though that press conference was local officials, they're not going to do all of this and not be able to lock some people up in their system. So everybody's getting picked up. On average with these raids, from my experience in working on these cases, 20 to 30% of people flip. Okay. I'm not putting that jacket on anybody in particular, but on average, 20 to 30% of people fold and give information. So they snatch all these people up. The intimidation factor of the FBI and Homeland Security is involved. A lot of these dudes are really young. There's people getting arrested in this who weren't even born when I got out of prison, which is crazy. So some of those people are going to talk. Some of them are cooperating, guaranteed. That's just how it works. And the feds are going to take all this information. Now they got these dudes off the streets. Some they're going to get, are going to get out. They're going to be watching them still. Just because you get out, don't think that you beat it. I've seen that there's one rapper that got picked up that is like, oh man, this ain't nothing. I'm out. You guys talking about this and don't trip. The homie's going to get out too. Okay, watch that flexing. You are not smarter than the federal government. Like you just got caught and you're getting out. Don't feel like you one up them. So they're going to be watching. The feds take time to build a case. They want to see what kind of information are we going to get? What kind of shit did we take from people, right, in these raids? No, okay, now we got people with switches. That's a lot of fed time right there, even if you have no priors. Most of these people have priors. Most of these people have been arrested with guns before. A lot of them as a juvenile, but nonetheless, they have, priors for weapons. So the feds can pick up any of these gun charges, right? In particular, the quote unquote assault weapons and the switches. They love that kind of stuff. And you will spend the next couple decades in the federal system. So they're going to squeeze all these dudes for information. They're going to come. Now they have all these potential federal charges. And then they're going to build their case, right? The feds. Right now, the state has them. That's fine. And some of these dudes are not going to go to the feds. But now they're going to build their case. And now they're going to build probably a RICO indictment. And that RICO indictment may include just one group. Maybe they just indict EBK. Maybe they just indict Flyboys. Probably not, but maybe. Or it's a RICO indictment of a couple people from a couple different groups. Not all of these people are going to get hit with Fed charges. I wouldn't expect that. But now they have the information. Now the feds build their case while these dudes sit in the state system, and then they go to a grand jury. But that's going to take time, probably next year. But there's no rush, right? There's no rush. So sometime in 2025, I would expect there to be a federal indictment of some of these individuals, and probably some individuals that didn't get picked up in this. I would expect more people are going to be arrested. They're not done. But there will be a federal indictment at some point in 2025 addressing this Stockton gang issue, right? And then you're going to see, well, the feds have indicted, 30 people, and they've all, they're all in custody, or 25 of them are already in custody, and 5 of them we had to go arrest. That's generally how this stuff goes. So right now, no, everybody's facing state charges. I don't know what made them feel like they needed to snatch everybody up. Like I said, in this time frame, I don't know if they got information that there was going to be some serious violence. I don't know if it's these rap videos. I imagine for law enforcement in Stockton, this is not a good look. If you go online and you look up Ebk Jaaybo's Boogieman, and you look up Bkandz The Real Boogieman, and you watch these videos, again, they're all props, right? It says so at the beginning of the video. They're all props. It's not a good look for law enforcement. There's a lot of props in these videos, a lot. There's props inside, there's props outside, and it looks like you have a little military running around. And that's not a good look for a city, for city leaders. It's election season, everything else. So maybe that's the reason, right? Or like I said, they had some information. Maybe there's some people was telling, and they feel like the people that were telling were bound to be exposed, and they didn't want their witnesses and their informants to get hurt, so they just came through and pulled the trigger on the sweep now. We probably will never know the full details of why now. But yes, a federal indictment is going to come. It doesn't mean all these guys are going to be indicted. And it doesn't mean that these are all the guys that are going to be arrested. But I would expect next year for there to be an indictment. And this shit is not a game. This shit is not a game. You're going to be in these videos with these props. Understand this. You're in a video with a prop rifle, but you're on parole, right? And some people from that video wind up getting arrested with a real rifle. You're going to go to jail. That's how that works. It doesn't, the disclaimer, like, it's cool, but it's not as cool as people think it is. That does not make you not responsible for the stuff, right? And so again, it's just not, people are not moving smart, but it's this obsession with growing your rap career based off these diss tracks and based off these beefs. And again, for the local people, they understand what's being said and what's not being said and who's going at who and everything else. But then when bodies start pulling up, don't think that law enforcement doesn't understand that shit too. I don't pretend to understand it all. I'm just going to keep it a buck. But I'm not the audience for this. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, there you have it. People have been asking me to talk about it. I've been waiting. I was a little curious at first because you had armored vehicles driving down the street with cops hanging off of it and people getting raided and bullhorns and all kinds of shit. And yet the local news wasn't saying a word about it. And that's because I think the feds told them not to say anything about it. Just wait till we're done. But they're not done. They are not at all done. They had a press conference, but they are not at all done. And so if you are engaged in criminal activity in Stockton, I would strongly encourage you to rethink your lifestyle as quick as possible. If you're from somewhere, that's cool. You're from where you're from. That does not mean that you need to participate in all the little reindeer games that are going on right now. Because again, the feds are watching, so granted, Stockton, they ain't got a whole lot of money in the Stockton budget. The police department is is not notorious for being very effective. But it's not just them you got to worry about now. And so maybe this is your wake up call. Maybe this is your chance to be like, you know what? I had a little run, but I'm done. I'm done. And maybe not, and then you get to go to prison. And all this little fancy shit that you got and all this fun that you're having, you can wind up sitting on the yard, drinking coffee, telling your homeboys about, man, when I was out there and back then. And trust me, I've been there. I've been there. I did that for a really long time. Never again. Never again. Not for me. Help others move with excellence, man. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it. Help your community because they need you. And move smarter. Move smarter. Take care.